All right, Lions fans, this is your guy. I'm not a Lions fan, but I am here to do this video not on Quinn and Patricia, but I am going to do this video on. I see a lot of videos based. Well, they're always hinting at the idea that whatever that's happened in the league or what's going on in the league, the Lions could be the next of it. We have a history of replicating or duplicating or imitating or carrying on whatever. Even with that said, it's probably it sounds like contradictory, so to speak. But even with what Quinn and Patricia is doing, we're bringing from staff to players, over here and so forth, and it's I don't want to call it a New England type discipleship, but uh, it really is a pet peeve, or it really does a thing to me when I hear the next whatever. Then it comes to us, or Jamal Agnew could be the next, or Jeffrey Okuda could be the next, or this. Why can't they just be the first? Like, why can't Jeffrey Okuda be Jeff Okuda? Why can't any player be? Why can't DeAndre Swift be DeAndre Swift versus being uh, Jive at Best 2.0, or it just it's like us well, it's like the Lions culture really don't have much of imagination. Like, they can't see past what they saw. So the best thing that they can do is imitate, replicate, or try to carry on what's been done. I think as a Lions fan, you had enough of that by trying to duplicate the West Coast offense, the wide nine defense, the Tampa two, and all that so forth. But people say, well, then that's what. Well, how can you say that when you support Quinn and Patricia? Well, if you look what the Lions is doing for the last past 2 years, they're doing something that New England don't do. And of course, your person could say win and the wins and ha 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 funny. But the Lions, the way they set up under Patricia and Bevel, and you're gonna see a more of an emphasis on Patricia this year with like he like I keep using this as a reference. He is marksman of a Jimmy Johnson, not a duplicate or a replicate. He approaches the game like Jimmy Johnson, and what I mean by that, perfection. It has to be. There are certain coaches that you don't have to give them much, and they can, uh, you know, make a mountain out of a molehill. They can, they can. But then you have some coaches that they need all of the recipes. I mean, all the ingredients, not recipes. They need all the ingredients to make the proper recipe. So, and I think Patricia's that type of guy. As of yet, this is only what is going into his third year. So he's figuring it out. First 2 years is trial by fire. All the great ones have done it. But with that said, can we please stop? Well, of course, I imagine we won't. But I I hope to some degree it would give somewhat of a stoppage, on becoming the Lions becoming the next whatever. The Lions could potentially become the next 49ers. They go from last to first, and they don't have to do any of that. The Lions need their own identity. The Lions have never had their own identity. They have had special talent with no identity. I mean, every championship team that won in Detroit professionally have had an identity. With the exception of the Detroit Lions. Possibly that could be the reason why they never won anything. Because everything has always been like a cast off of someone else, or it's a pass on from someone else. They have never had their own identity. I somebody said like we could have a secondary. It could be somewhat like the Legion of Boom. I'm like, well, why have to be like them? I mean, this is the first time that an offense and a defense can actually be dominant in Lions history. Not just dominant on one side. As a matter of fact, they could dominate in all three phases. And if you look at the team, how they structured it where there is really is made to be a team. It's not made for an individual player. Like, so for example, I Jeffrey Okuda was the number three pick, right? And they couldn't have picked a better player to fit what they already have in place. Now the average fan may say like, well, okay, they don't have a defensive line. You could be said that could be that statement is so wrong. You know, man, I don't. Okay, it's kind of hard to gauge it because we really don't know what they have based upon what they was using last year. That's why the whole Patricia thing. This is why I love it because I don't see him ever duplicating anything that he ever done. He's basically constantly refining himself. Well, I get he could have learned that from himself, or he could have learned that from Bill Belichick. But that's why I think why he is, with my eyes, considered like you know, very inventive, and he's a genius in that way. I mean, he's inventive. He constantly creates and stuff like that. So he's experimental. He's a thinker. So with that being said, Jeffrey Okuda, yeah, look what Jeffrey Okuda is considered was in this draft was considered the the best corner. Some people may argue based upon whatever, but for what the Lions is, what they're set, how they were set up, he fits it perfectly. More so than what even I would say the guys who I wanted them to target in the offseason and they didn't go get. And Jeffrey Okuda is he's see okay, let me say this. Jeffrey Okuda, he is not going to be on your number one receiver. Somebody said with the number three he should be. Well, he will not be on your. Well, if let me say this, if it was up to me, I would not put him on my number one. I would put him on my number two. I put him on the number two. Number two is more likely is not going to be your speed guy, your burst guy. So I will put if I'm running a nickel, well, I got zone on the best receiver. I got zone on that, and with the with the key piece in my secondary from Harmon to Jamie Collins, man. I mean, I'm sorry, this team is gonna be special. You can see it. It's like the Pistons when they went 50-32, then they come back 50-32, but they get swept in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Then the next year they go get Rasheed Wallace. The moment that they got Rasheed Wallace, you can see before when they got him, he's like, it's together. It's the pieces together. I was saying, what was it last year, or if not the year before last, that they need to go get Patrick Peterson because he was the Rasheed Wallace. I was ever wrong, not because they didn't go get him, or not because how the season turned out, but because in fact they wasn't in a position for a Rasheed Wallace type move, and Patrick Peterson wasn't that Rasheed Wallace type player. I wanted them to make a blockbuster trade, i.e. Rasheed Wallace-esque. But the player that I believe that they got who was Rasheed Wallace-esque that pushed them over the top, I'm going to say it's three players, but I really want to pin it down to one. I'm going to say it's Danny Shelton, Deron Harmon, and of course Jamie Collins. That is my Rasheed Wallace trade right there. With those three guys, look at the linebacker core last year. Your best linebacker was Jelani Tavai, which was the rook. And I'm saying that he was the best. And of course, that's saying a lot for a guy who really don't have that much experience, whatever. But he balled out. All right, your best defensive lineman was Trey Flowers with really no help. All right, and defensive your best DB, well, I'm gonna say is Tracy Walker last year. People would say, "Well, Slay." I'm like, I don't think so. Slay is not complete to me. He's talent. He's not IQ. You know what I mean? He has partial IQ. You got to have some IQ to be, I get that. But he's not IQ. He's not. See, Richard Sherman is IQ. You're not going to outsmart him. And I guess that's probably the reason why Patricia said what he said. Those players are on a different level, than Slay. How they approach the game mentally, they're on a different thing. But anyway, uh, so you get a guy like Jeffrey Okuda who is IQ. He's technique. He studies. I mean, he gets it. That's why he's like the perfect fit. Like if they had him last year, scratch off. Oh, I can't even do that. I can't even do that. I would like to, but then I have to take off. I would have to add Harmon. Let me say it this way: Okuda, Trufant, Jamie Collins, Harmon, and Danny Shelton. It's over. It's over. I heard fans saying like they want to go get another DN. You don't need it because you don't know where the heat is coming from. You don't know where the heat is coming from. See, the Lions fan has never seen a team put together like this before. And even with that, they of course they've been stumped before. They've been they've been played before where they put all their cards on the table and the Lions burned them. But I would say this, and not even on paper. And people say like, well, there's no mini camp, there's no training camp, and all that. Look at it if it was a holdout, and they broke the holdout, and they coming in whatever. They may have like a 2 day training camp, whatever. Whoever hits the ground out of all the teams in the league, whoever hits the ground running, there you go. You run with it. So the Lions should do that according to their players. Whoever hit the ground running, you go with it. Whoever's ready, go. If Jared Davis is ready, he starts. I mean, he got his position. Well, just go with it. If it's Bryant, I want to say it's Austin Bryant. I think that's his name. I'm not sure. If he's ready, you plug him. But if I were to go across that, if I were to give you your defensive line starting lineup, it would I will have Hand and Shelton as my D tackles if I could, and with Flowers on the other side, and I'm running a 3-4. I'm running a 3-4, easy, easy. So I got the two, uh, I got the two brothers with Bryant and Tavai. No, I wouldn't even say the two brothers. I would say you got Bryant, Tavai. They loaded. The Lions gonna be man. They look okay. I forgot they got Collins. Wow, just that fast. Okay, Collins, Tavai, uh, Bryant, and whoever fills that other side. Whoever gets the and that secondary. I, yeah, but anyway, I went somewhere else with this video, totally entirely different. I mean, than I anticipated to go. But I'm saying this to say that it's not even about being on paper or about getting a whole bunch of free agents and like we did the previous years and it didn't work out. Now the free agents that they brought in and the rookies that they brought in it's like different. It reminds me of that year that when the Pistons did had that off season when when Joe Dumars reassembled the team once he traded Grant Hill to Orlando for Ben Wallace and Chucky Atkins, you start to see how he started to put it together. That first year was what it was. It was okay, you know. But that second year, that first year up under Rick Carlisle, you start seeing him putting pieces together. By that second year up under Rick Carlisle, you're like, okay, now he can build off of that. But he went to that off season when they after they got swept in the the Eastern Conference Finals. When they got swept, he went and he came in. He got loaded. He got loaded. He brought in Darvin Ham, Elton Campbell. I think he made a trade for Lindsey Hunter. He brought in Mike James. Mike James was part of the Rasheed Wallace trade. Let me see who else. Who else? I'm missing somebody. I'm missing somebody. Anyway, but he loaded up with veterans that one they know how to play, but actually they can do very specific things. And this is what Larry Brown had took over, and this is what he needed. This is what I'm saying for Patricia. Like the team that it was last year, even with I can't harp on this enough. Even with the depleted roster, and you want to go with the rankings based upon yardage and everything else, we had a bad defense. Nah, I'm saying we're leading majority of the games in the fourth quarter. So that means you're stopping somebody from doing something. So outscore your opponent. Okay. All right. So if there's a coin flip and they got the opposing team got the ball first and they don't score and then you score, you stop somebody. You're already ahead. So even the opposing team come down and they score, they playing catch up and you score again. I mean, what I'm saying is, whoever hit first, I'm not gonna do is sustain. Hold ground. So, but last year, the Chiefs game, the Arizona game, and the Packers game. Those were pivotal like moments, like that cost us the game. And majority of the games that we were in, that we were leading the fourth quarter, it was like moments, a moment. And it wasn't nothing done by Patricia. People could say the plays that he was running didn't do it or whatnot, but man, please, the players that we had didn't know how to play. Well, let me change that. I stand corrected. They knew how to play, but they knew how to play on a lesser level, like not on a perfectionist level. Like Bill Belichick will say, "Do it and do it again, do it and do it again." Now, okay, now Patricia, brought that over here, and he brought that over here, and he said this thing. They wanted to run a play. Say if we get it right the first time, like they're doing this in practice. If we get it right the first time, that's what we'll do it. So in other words, it's been held a standard. It's been, yeah, if everybody do their part, then it will work out. He said otherwise we're not going to do it. Look, look at that. If everybody don't do their part, this particular play will not work. So if everybody's not doing their part in practice, if we don't get it right, for us to get forward to this play to get right done in practice, everybody will have to do their part. And since everybody didn't do their part, we won't do that play. And the trick plays that they done, if you notice how they worked to perfection, because it started in that film room, it started in that on the field work. Man, please, I love Patricia. I love Patricia. Now he's not perfect, but neither was like Jimmy Johnson, and that's my guy. I like Jimmy Johnson. I didn't care for the Cowboys because they was knocking my 49ers off, but Jimmy Johnson is my guy. Even he was missing it. What? I mean, he missed it when the Lions played him and we beat him in what was that 91? I think that was the wild card game, I believe, and the Lions knocked him off. He missed it then. I believe the Washington had a better roster that year. I think Dallas had definitely a better roster. But even if he didn't, he missed it. And but it happens that way. But anyway, this is my griping video about the whole duplication. The Lions could be the next, or this player could be the next. They don't have to just let them have their own identity. So here's the problem. Like I said, the Lions as a football team has never had their own successful positive identity. It had always come to some kind of it had a negative spin on it, on attached to it, and they try to build an identity off of that. So with that being said, well, if I were to give an example, like okay, the Mike Utley situation, or uh, the I don't want to call it when we had when we had Swartz, and the Lions was like really not really. The Lions wasn't really. They weren't really focused, and they would do a lot of bonehead penalties and stuff like that. So they developed that, especially when we play against New Orleans or whatever. We would do silly things. They weren't really. I don't want to call it organized, but they really wasn't mature. They would just do silly things at crucial moments. So with that being said, I close this video out.